power to do something about that. And it's bringing up new excuses that were never brought in the first place that are causing people to question things. And it's such a terrible thing, because it was the week of July 13th, Butler failed assassination attempt, the miracle that Trump is still alive. They should have been celebrating that. Successes in the judicial front, successes in the economic front, they should have been celebrating that. But instead, an absolutely so unforced of an error that I question whether or not there was some sort of sabotage to divide the base and sink the Trump's second term, because releasing an unsigned, undated memo in the dead of night to Axios, uploading it to the DOJ website the next day, not speaking to that memo for the better part of a week when rumors and controversy is swirling, then having Todd Blanche say everyone signed off on a memo that nobody signed off on literally. If you were trying to sink the successes of the Trump presidency, I don't know what you would have done differently.
Yeah, no, well said. And there's so many other things that I'm just furious about with all of this. I could spend an hour talking with you about it. Viva, great to see you as always. Thank you so much for your sharp legal mind on all of this. Thank you, and thanks for sticking with this story.
I'm stubborn. I've been on it for 6 years since it was being demonetized on YouTube, because YouTube didn't want you talking about it. And I want Trump to succeed. I think from a personal perspective, I need Trump to succeed. It would be disastrous, not just for America, for the world, if this goes to the Democrats in 2026. He can potentially get impeached, convicted, and removed from office, or 2028, in which case, America's going to look like the same Canada that I've had to pack up and leave from.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be deeply disturbing if nothing changes by 2028. I hope you're right about that. Viva, great to see you. Thank you so much, as always.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, and someone in our chat just says, Graphics Nuts says, nothing is more important than stopping our children from the kind of monsters involved. Yeah, absolutely. That's at the heart of it. The other piece of this is like, well, Trump's on the list. Trump's on the list. I don't know. Maybe he's in this, in a larger capacity. We know that he's, is friends with him in a some kind of capacity. But, they had to invent the Russia collusion hoax. They had to invent a story to push a fake story. If Democrats had this story back then, they would have run with it. But what's really interesting? I was thinking about this today. All these Democrats in power are just so quiet about the story. Bill Clinton's not saying a word about it. Hillary Clinton's not saying a word about Epstein. Obama's not saying a word about it.
If you need any other clue that they're a uniparty, right?
Or that they're involved somehow. So they're staying quiet. They're really staying quiet about this whole thing. And it's something very nefarious is going on here, and we need answers. We're not going to shut up about it. Ben Shapiro, these other morons want to tell us to shut up about it. We're not going to shut up.
It's like grassy knoll, like, you're
yourself.
A JFK conspiracy theorist. Well, that one panned out, right? And so they're saying, you're still on this. You're that kind of person, impugning the kind of people who are still curious if there are, in fact, sex trafficking rings that exploit powerful people in order to give them position in our zeitgeist. Yeah, kind of still want to know about that one.
Yeah.
Kind of do.
Well said. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about... go ahead.
Oh, David wants to say something.
Well, I was just going to say, I feel like with Trump's Truth Social post, that he was basically setting up to blame the Biden administration so that if his name did come out somehow, he could say, oh, no, they added that. Like, they doctored that all. It was the Bidens and Obama.
I don't think that's possible if you look at previous cases when at the very least we had messages, proof of messages from President Trump's own personal number to Epstein through his assistant. That's really the only solid proof we've seen thus far that I've been able to see. But if you have something else, let us know.
Frankie, the voice in our chat, says, reduce the red orange in your settings. You guys look orange. I know the lighting. We're working on the lighting. Dave's we got to tweak this, but we're dealing with like some Windows settings and craziness with it. So in our new studio here. So we're trying to get to the bottom of this. I know it's frustrating. It frustrates me. So I hear your pain. It frustrates me. I get it. We're working on it. Don't worry.
Can I fix that with the foundation?
No. Coming up on the show, we're going to talk about Israel admitting to shooting children. But they were probably aiming at medical aid workers with their guns, and the bullets just went the opposite way and hit children. So that's what these sick bastards are now saying. We're going to talk about that, what's going on in Gaza today. We're also going to talk about what the hell is happening in Spain, by the way. I don't know if you've been seeing it, but they're furious about the amount of immigrants that are just taking over their streets. UK now is the rape capital of Europe. So way to go, UK. You won that award. like Elf, in the movie Elf. He said, congratulations.
Way to go, everyone. You did it.
You did it.
World's best cup of coffee.
World's rape capital, Europe's rape capital, the United Kingdom. Way to go on that by opening up your borders and descending into chaos. All right. But first, we all know the cost of war, cities being leveled, families shattered, lives lost. But here's what's not being said loud enough. We can wipe out our financial future as well. Right now, the U.S. is on a dangerous path. The U.S. dollar is teetering on disaster. President Trump this week and the whole crypto week right now, sort of trying to save it by trying to tie the U.S. dollar to stable coins. We'll see if that boondoggle actually works. I don't know. $37 trillion in debt. Good luck. So I was teaching my son. My son and I took a nice long walk the other day. My wife, Natalie, she said, Miles, go walk with your dad. He wants to talk to you about silver. That's the perfect conversation for a teenager, right?
He was into it.
He was, because he wants to understand. He has a little money in his savings account and he wants to start investing. And he's like, how can I start being smart about it? He's 14 years old. He's about to turn 15, starting to do his driver's training, all that stuff. And he's like, I need to understand this. I want to understand this. So he took a long walk with me and I was explaining to him the benefits of investing in precious metals. He said, like mommy and daddy do. And I was explaining why silver is so powerful. It's not only, currency, it's a commodity. It's used in everything, and so there's a silver shortage right now. And he's like, all right, well, how can I start doing that? I said, silver, relatively speaking to gold, is, less expensive, but a lot of experts believe it's the one that's going to explode in value. And I said, all right, well, I will help you out. We'll help you out, son. And so we hooked him up with our friends at Lear Capital. That's where we get our gold. That's where we get our silver. And so he's going to use some of his savings to start investing in precious metals. So he can get his money out of US dollars and be smart about it and start putting some of his allowance money when he does chores, all that kind of stuff, mows lawns, everything. He's going to start actually buying precious metals. I'm starting him off right. I don't want him to be like me when I was young and I was in debt and I had credit card debt. I really screwed up until I was in my 30s. So I want to start him off right. Anyway, if you want to start investing in precious metals, you want to start converting some of your U.S. dollars into precious metals, give them a call.
Yes,
it was an easier conversation. Glad you didn't tell me to have that conversation.
No, I have not.
All right.
He's just a small baby.
So. He's not. He's a 14-year-old. All right.
Okay. Well, let's move on. Small children were killed at a water distribution point in central Gaza over the weekend, shot. These are people's babies shot while trying to get water because they are thirsty, because their homes and infrastructure have been systematically obliterated as collective punishment to civilians for the actions of Hamas. Now, this time Israel admitted it. They say they were targeting an Islamic Jihad terrorist, but the strike, this is a direct quote, fell dozens of meters from the target. Now, I know a tiny bit about guns. I don't think they work like that. If you shoot in one direction, they don't fall dozens of meters away. That's not how weapons work. It feels to me like saying fell dozens of meters from the target is their way of saying we missed and civilians die. But trust us, we were aiming for someone else. Is there any plausible reading where that phrase makes sense, where we can accept that? Joining us today is James Robbins. He's the author of Blowing Everything Up is Beautiful, Israel's Extermination of Gaza. Thank you so much for joining us. So, James, what is your read of this? Is there any way we could accept this as anything other than direct targeting of innocent civilians?
Look, all militaries in the world operate under what's called a principle of proportionality. So that's how many civilians you're allowed to kill, or you allow yourself to kill. Now, the IDF has given itself...
There's one simple Thai morning ritual that any person can use to reverse aging almost overnight. Did you...
a proportionality principle of anywhere between 20 and 30 civilians for every low-ranking member of Hamas that it targets. For even higher-ranking members of Hamas, that number goes up to even 300. Now, to put this in context, when the United States took out Osama bin Laden, they allowed a non-combat casualty cutoff value of 30. So, in a sense, even if the IDF did make a mistake with this strike, their rules and their guidelines and their rules of engagement really allow them to kill dozens of civilians at a time. And this has gone on for 20 months now. And this, this massacre is just one massacre on top of a giant mountain of them. Massacres like these happen almost every single day in Gaza. Some of them are accidents. Surely most of them are not.
Right. And so Israel is saying that the incident is under review, but after they killed 15 medics and denied it, and then video evidence showed that they did, in fact, execute them, they called it a, quote, professional failure. So given the propaganda spin on every civilian death that's outrageous, what can we expect from this review?
Very little. I mean, there's a very, very good human rights group in Israel called B'Tselem, and they gave up referring cases to the Israeli judicial system, I think in 2016, which is almost 10 years ago now. And they stopped referring cases to the Israeli judicial system because the conviction rate for Israeli soldiers who had killed, who had abused, who had tortured Palestinian detainees, Palestinian civilians, were never tried. The conviction rate is so low as to not matter at all. Look, the Israeli government, the Israeli military continues to carry out these massacres because they are allowed to do so by the United States. The only country in the world that could possibly stop what is going on in Gaza right now is the United States, is the American president, which is a slightly terrifying thing because that means that the whole system of international law, international norms has been completely broken, been completely wrecked. It is as ruined as the Gaza Strip is right now.
Now, I think we should remind ourselves why the Palestinians don't have food and water. We learned from what I thought was a shocking report from a group called Breaking the Silence, a report called The Perimeter, detailed how they systematically destroyed homes, agricultural land, factories, and infrastructure along the Gaza border in order to make sure that the civilians could not ever fend for themselves or live independently. So this idea that they don't have water is no accident, right?
No accident at all. It's a deliberate policy. That report from Breaking the Silence is an incredibly good report. It relies on the testimony of IDF soldiers who, given anonymity, have spoken about their experiences and not only the destruction and demolition that takes place within that buffer zone, but also the random killings that IDF soldiers are allowed to engage in. They can shoot anyone on sight. If they are male, they are classed as a terrorist, and if they are female or a girl or a child, then who cares? It goes much further than just the demolitions and the ruining of farmland and so on, greenhouses within that buffer zone. Look, 80%, probably higher now, of Gaza's residential stock, its houses and its apartment buildings, have been systematically ruined. As you mentioned before, there was an 11-week siege in which no fuel, no food, no aid, no medicine, not even an aspirin was allowed into the Gaza Strip. And the world hasn't seen urban hunger this extreme and concentrated since the siege of Leningrad ended in 1944. That's pretty shocking. Now, when the Israelis lifted this siege, I think at the end of May, if I remember rightly, Bezalel Smotrich, the Israeli finance minister and the most extreme right-wing member of the government, got up and said, look, we're not releasing the siege out of our own good graces. We're not doing it out of our own beneficence. We're doing it so that the world stops accusing us of violations of the Genocide Convention, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. We're doing it so that the United States continues to act as our patron, as our armorer, and as our legal linebacker. When somebody in the Israeli government gets up and says that out loud, that's impunity in operation.
Right. I don't know if you've ever read the book Let There Be Water by Seth Siegel. He talks about how Israelis have been able to thrive in their water conservation efforts, and they actually have more water than anyone else in the Middle East because they have reverse osmosis. They have all kinds of really clever technology. So the juxtaposition here of the Israelis who have this amazing access to clean water and then babies being shot for it right next door is just terrifying. I don't know how we all are living under this constant assault on our psyche, seeing it and being told that it's okay. It's not a question, but would you like to respond to that?
Sure, and it's part of the reason why I wrote the book, Blowing Up Everything is Beautiful, because it's very difficult with this subject because it lives under a shroud of propaganda and lies and misinformation, and it's very difficult for people who think that they might be sympathetic to the Palestinians and their plight, or just outraged in general that mass murder is allowed to happen in today's day and age. I try to cut through all of that. And, like the title is something that is almost a direct quote, came from the Israeli heritage minister, a guy named Amichai Eliyahu. And he posted on Facebook, I think, in November of 2023, alongside a picture of a bulldozer running over somebody's house. And a bulldozer is as much a weapon of this war as missiles or bombs or tank shells. And this guy posted on Facebook, North Gaza is a treat for the eyes, blowing up and flattening everything is beautiful. And I'm sorry to harp on the point, but again, this is impunity at work, isn't it? There's no punishment for these people for their actions. And when there is a trial at the International Court of Justice, when there are hearings, for Israel's breach of the Genocide Convention, potential breach, alleged breach, we will have to have these hearings be a refoundation of international law. They will have to be as important as the Nuremberg trials were in 1946. Otherwise, we're completely at sea, and it will be the rule of the powerful, and they will be able to kill you with impunity. That's what the Israelis are proving at the moment, and it's the reality that we're very, very quickly heading towards.
So I just picked up on a little note of optimism in what you just said, which was when this happens, because I think to a lot of us, it feels like it never will. So where did you find that seed of optimism? Can you share that with us?
Well, it's not so much optimism, but it's reality. I mean, all throughout last year, there were hearings at the International Court of Justice. South Africa brought a case against Israel for breaches of the Genocide Convention. And the court ruled on multiple occasions that there's a severe possibility of genocide taking place. And the court issued what are called provisional measures, they're sort of court orders, that said Israel should not do genocide, obviously, shouldn't incite genocide, and shouldn't weaponize aid, which is exactly what is happening now with these feeding centers, these aid stations that have been set up by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. But, in May of 2024, the court issued another one of these rulings ahead of Israel's invasion of Rafah, the southernmost city in Gaza, which no longer exists. It's been completely razed to the ground. It's gone. You can see the Mediterranean from the middle of what used to be a city. The court ruled that Israel should not go ahead with its invasion of Rafah. It did so anyway. So even if we do end up in a situation where there will be a trial, and there will be, this has to happen now, in several years' time.
What's poisoning your brain and stealing your memories, and how to reverse it with a simple at-home ritual?
Again, we'll have to go through this intense battle, this court battle, in which the law that we're operating under, the Genocide Convention, sets a very, very, very high bar to prove intent and to prove that genocide has taken place at all. Now, that's counterbalanced by the fact that there is an abundance of evidence, not only of direct targeted killings of civilians on a mass scale, and the deprivation of civilians of their means of existence, their means of life, their food, their medicine, their housing, their access to water. And then as well, evidence of intent, like the quote from the Israeli heritage minister that I mentioned before. And at the beginning of the book, I have quite a long list of other statements made by Israeli ministers and military officers to this effect. Proving intent will be quite easy.
Okay. Well, the book is called Blowing Up Everything is Beautiful, Israel's Extermination of Gaza. James Robbins is our guest today. Thank you so much for this fantastic context. I'm going to pick up your book. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Excellent. Thanks, James.
Fantastic. I think it helps us because we are witnessing such horror that a lot of times we think, I'm just seeing this through the internet. Can this even be real? And, you need evidence on your side to discuss this anymore, because I'm overwrought by it. I think we all are. So yeah, the better informed. It's not just in the algorithm. There's more that we need to know about. It's happening on our watch.
I didn't really get optimistic about the fact that there will be a trial, though, because let's say that James was right, that it's in a couple years we get this trial and we get to go back and look at this genocide, but by then it's done. Everybody's dead. So is the plan just to erase Palestine, all the Palestinians, and then just Netanyahu can turn himself in and he takes the full blame, but the damage is already done.
Right. Yeah.
Even if he goes to prison. It's there's still those people are all still dead. So it's just, that's not justice. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and the sickos that wanted this, this ethnic cleansing will then say, well, he was our sort of champion. Yeah, he fell on a sword. Netanyahu did. Yeah, he was a demon. He might go down in world history as one of the most vile human beings of all time. But he fell on the sword. He killed 2.5 million Palestinians, and now that land belongs to Israel. They've taken it over. And he just, he rides off into the sunset.
Right.
As this savior for these people.
Yeah.
Disgusting. All right. We've got more news to get to. We're going to talk about Spain. Someone in the chat said, now do Europe. Yeah. What the hell is happening in Spain? What's happening in the UK? What's happening in France right now? Because the amount of immigrants have poured across their borders. The countries have intentionally let it happen. And it all came to a boiling point this weekend in Spain. Now Spanish citizens are taking their streets back, saying, get out. We want Spain to remain Spain. We are a Christian country. Get out of our country. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But first, a close friend of ours just saved tens of thousands of dollars on Medicare. And I want to get some of these images. This weekend, it all started with elderly Spanish folks getting attacked, beat up by a group of illegal Moroccan gang members. The illegals are now even setting up barricades, blocking streets. It's like they're going to war, taking over the streets, attacking local Spanish citizens. But now, and the police aren't doing anything about it. So what are the Spanish people doing? They're trying to take their streets back. They're forming their own groups to stop them. Here's how would you say that? Reimmigration?
Reimmigration.
There you go. So this is their group, Spanish Patriots, taking to the street, saying Spain is a Christian country, holding banners for reimmigration and chanting Spain is Christian, not Muslim. Basically, the Spaniards are now pushing for mass deportations. Get out of our country. You're ruining our country. Pensioners being attacked, old people being attacked just on their way home from a restaurant. It's an absolute disaster. I like this tweet. This kind of sums it up here. I love this person's screen name, by the way. Cleavage Crumbs. Cleavage Crumbs writes, this is not a breakdown in civility by the Spaniards. This is a reasonable response to continuing and escalating acts of violence by groups of, let's call them what they are, invaders. Disrespectful of Spanish culture, religion, and people, these invaders are finally meeting resistance. True resistance can only come from the Spaniards themselves, as their government, so synchronized to the horrendous immigration policies of the EU, do not see the true danger posed by the invaders. The diversity is a strength bullshit is being seen for what it is. People unwilling to assimilate, unwilling to accept the culture of the land they are supposedly integrating themselves to is not immigration, it's an invasion, she says. What do you guys think of this? I mean, Spain is in deep trouble. I'm not surprised the mainstream media is totally ignoring the story, of course.
Maybe they just don't want to open up the complication of the Reconquista, that the Moors actually ruled Spain for so many hundreds of years, and then it's coming back full circle. I mean, it's a complicated, are we going to do this?
Yeah, that was...
Go ahead.
That was my thought. It was like the irony didn't get lost on me, that it's sort of like a reverse crusade.
We're doing this again? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And I mean... There's merit in discussing this, but do we want this blood again? Right? Is this what we need? Or we had a country, Should we have that still, or what are we doing here?
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with people standing up. I wish, in America, more people would have stood up at our border and said enough is enough, but we didn't have it. The borders were wide open, and it was facilitated by the Biden administration. And I kept asking him, like, well, where are like where's the trucker convoy that we saw in Canada? Like a massive trucker convoy at our southern border saying enough is enough. We don't want these violent criminals here. We don't want our elderly people being beat up by these Moroccan gang members here. Hey, here's an idea. I don't want my grandmother to be raped by a Moroccan gang member. Can you imagine that? Either. Like, I want to be able to go out to dinner with my family. I want to be able to have, and I want the security of my country back. Mm-hmm. And all across Europe, because they've bought into this like globalist narrative. I mean, it's happening in Portugal. It's happening in, it's happening in Spain. It's happening in Germany. It's happening in France. But of course, the media is like hiding it, basically calling them like xenophobic. And maybe the worst spot right now is the UK, because a lot of times, they're coming into France, they're coming into Spain, and they might not get the health benefits. They might not get all of the cushy benefits like free housing and things. So then they go across the English Channel and they go into the UK and they're getting all sorts of cushy stuff. So right now you're seeing an exodus. We ran into a couple of really fantastic people when we were in Scotland the other day. And, like Sean, for instance, who walked up to us and he says, I got out. I think he said he lived in London.
Somewhere in the UK.
Yeah, and he's like, I had to get England out and move to the countryside. He's like, it's completely overrun. It's unrecognizable.
Right.
We talked to a nice older couple that lived in Nottingham, and they said, we don't recognize our country anymore. Our country has been overrun. And now, instead of pensioners being taken care of, you're having these immigrants being given mass amounts of money. And now a bombshell story over the past 24 hours out of the UK about this new data breach. You guys hear about this story? Shows that the UK government has been secretly sneaking in upwards of 24,000 Afghans after this data breach came forward that kind of revealed their personal information. These were Afghan soldiers who were working with the British government over the past 20 years in that horrible war. So basically sneaking them into the UK. And now we know that they've been doing this to the tune of 7 billion British pounds. And they kept it hidden from the UK's residents. Like, you don't know about it. The only reason we now know about it is because this story leaked and because the data breach happened. So far, apparently, they brought in about 4,000 of these Afghans. 20,000 still ready to come in to a country that's already.
Here's how to turn your old smartphone into a $5,000 DSLR camera. This device is taking the photography world by.
So far, apparently, they brought in about 4,000 of these Afghans. 20,000 still ready to come in to a country that's already at its breaking point. And by the way, I find this incredibly hypocritical when you think about Keir Starmer. Mm-hmm. So he's a liar. Because he knew about this. He knew about this plan to bring in these Afghans, but here he was on social media a few months ago telling us that we have to close our border down. We have to protect our people.
Yeah. Feigned outrage while acting exactly opposite of what
So he's a liar. It's shocking, I know. Anyway, here's the Sky News report this morning as they were breaking this story. Watch.
To bring you now, thousands of people are being relocated to the UK after personal data leak of Afghan citizens. Thousands will be relocated to the United Kingdom. It's part of a secret £850 million scheme set up after a personal data leak. It's of Afghans who supported British forces. We can report this to you now, that the data set contained the personal information of nearly 19,000 people who had applied for the Afghan Relocations and Assistance Policy, ARAP. It was released in error in February 2022 by a defence official. The breach resulted in the creation of a secret Afghan relocation scheme. It's called the Afghanistan Response Route. It was developed in April 2024. The scheme, it's understood, has cost around £400 million so far. It's projected to cost, once it's completed, around £850 million. And of course, there'll be the legal costs and compensations to come too. So it's expected millions of pounds will be paid out in that.
Now, you notice when you visit the UK that any native-born UK citizen is struggling. It's really expensive there. And the government continues to make any kind of investment unaffordable, and unattainable. And so you are always going to be a slave to that government that will not actually advocate for you. And so it's natural to ask, why is it easier for recent immigrants and refugees from other countries when we have to work late? We get no social benefits. We're pensioners, as they call themselves. And their lives are harder. And as we were discussing this with a couple from the UK who were, still working age, but elderly, and they had younger daughters, and they started to talk about, well, immigration is a problem. And their daughters were like, oh, let's racist. Let's not. And I thought to myself,
don't talk about this.
You
Dad.
two are useful idiots. You are the ones who are manipulated by the mainstream media to think that the hard work of your father and his taxes that go into supporting other people is a racist thing to discuss. So they have been told that because dad is concerned about this, but he's worked so hard, that makes him a racist. And they have basically swallowed that bait, hook, line, and sinker, making them these, probably well-intentioned young people who have not worked decades in their lives and will probably care about this once they have. And I thought, you don't realize that you two are media tropes. You make yourself look so stupid by shooting down the experienced person who has legitimate concerns. I just felt so sorry for them to be a pawn of a media narrative. It just, like this working class dad who has worked to support his kids, who is being told he's hateful in front of strangers. I couldn't take it.
Well, also this guy was paying for their dinner.
Right.
Too.
Yeah.
So, he's the father who took these kids on a vacation. They were like traveling at the time. So I'm sure the father was paying for this trip. And on top of that, I overheard the daughter talking about how she's been trying out using OnlyFans as a way in order to
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did. That's just a little side nugget. So you want to talk about a media trope? Like she's complaining about her dad who's upset about how his country has changed. And she's talking about how she's going to become a streamer and start trying OnlyFans. Yeah.
I missed that part.
Well, it helps to have,
she was with her
big
lesbian
ears.
partner.
Yeah.
And that's what they're up to.
But anyway, it wasn't just this couple. I mean, we talked to a lot of different people, and they're saying the same things all across the UK right now. It's unrecognizable. So many of them are moving out to the country trying to get a better life, and the cities are overrun. Whether it's Edinburgh to London, it's unrecognizable. So again, I think it's unbelievable. And here's one of the benefits of that is rapes. This new statistics out. Here we have the brand new statistics for 2025. These are the rape statistics by country. And you'll notice the United Kingdom is now the European leader in rapes. 73,000 a year. Unbelievable. You're wondering, there's the United States over there in dark blue. Like, what's the U.S.? I was talking about Europe specifically, but you can see France. But here's the U.S., 141,000. So we still lead in rapes. But United Kingdom, 73,000. A tiny little country, territory there, the size of New Jersey, has that high. It's unbelievable.
In Scotland, the sun never goes down. How do you rape someone in broad daylight?
I don't know if in Scotland specifically. I just think maybe in Britain.
I'd say probably the
a
same
lot of
way you do in the dark.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. That's a good question.
You would think that that's a crime of the night.
Yeah.
And that maybe you'd be a little safer in the summer.
I mean, it is still.
I haven't thought through how to go about
what time of the day
committing this
happen.
crime.
But yeah, it happens
Well, yeah, but
sun goes down.
and the majority of rapes aren't getting grabbed by a stranger. That's actually a fairly rare occurrence. It's usually on dates or things like that where it's going to happen. So it's usually somebody they know. So the daylight doesn't really matter.
Philip, you and I remind us. It's note to self. Let's not go on dates in the UK. Okay.
The both of you to keep yourself safe.
We're going to keep ourselves.
I got you covered.
Absolutely.
I got you covered.
Thank you. These
Very
rapers.
good.
All right, we're going to take some of your super chats here in a second. But first,
we want to tell you about our friends over at American Financing. Because you can find it at redacted.inc. The newsletter today, we talked about the Wharton School of Business, which is a bipartisan think tank. And the way that they break down the big, beautiful bill is damning. So seek that out either in the newsletter or through the Wharton School of Business themselves. It's a really interesting. Subscribe to their newsletter, too. You get a lot of really bipartisan ways to look at the economy. It just feels like the big, beautiful bill was the infrastructure bill in red. That's how it feels to me.
Well, thank you guys so much for supporting our show. Like I said, we do this show when we do this live stream pretty much daily here, and we are supported by our few sponsors that we have here. If you watch like a show on Fox News or CNN, every commercial break they've got like six sponsors. So in an hour show, they've got like 24. So we are able to do this show with our staff and be able to keep the lights on around here by the sponsors that we have on our show. And our thanks to you for subscribing to the show. We wouldn't be able to do this free. It's free. It's a free show, but we wouldn't be able to do this without your support and subscribing and sharing what we do here. We try to seek the truth. We don't have all the answers, but our goal is to have no agenda and seek the truth every day on this show. And sometimes very uncomfortable truths. We're not afraid to criticize President Trump. We're not afraid to criticize Democrats. We're not afraid to criticize anybody. So we will just continue to do that on the show. So thank you guys so much. Much love to you. It's so great to be back. And we'll be back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see you then, everyone. Have a great night.